Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you like this episode, please remember to hit the like button and leave a comment or two, then subscribe and click on the bell to receive notifications of whenever we release new videos. Also, please remember to share them to your social media.
Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to a stretch of Canadian wilderness just west of Timmins, Ontario, Canada. Just outside of the Folliat area, the Groundhog River has drawn the scrutiny of energy and mining corporations for the possibility of it containing valuable resources. With an elevation of 1,200 feet above sea level, this area is flat and hosts thick forests containing black and white spruce, balsam fir, jack pine, tamarack, white birch, quaking aspen, and balsam poplar trees. Common animals here include moose and woodland caribou roaming the marshes and forests, while wolves and black bears stalk them from the shadows. The dancing wildflowers, playful otters, and beautiful songbirds belie the danger of this scenic place that simmers beneath the surface. In June of 2013, Dr. Rob Foster was performing a point count for songbirds along the Groundhog River. Foster was a bona fide academic, having received the Rhodes Scholar while attending Oxford University, and parlayed his talents into the creation of a consulting firm named Northern Bioscience. His business relied on contracts for wildlife surveys, which led him to isolated and uninhabited corners of the world. He had completed studies on creatures ranging in size, from dung beetles in Africa to lions, and was used to the exposure and danger of the job. Now, Foster wasn't naive as to the risk he was exposed to when he visited the boreal forests of Ontario. He knew that black bears were nothing to trifle with, so he came prepared with bear spray whenever he ventured into the woods. In his 30 years in the bush, he had never had to spray a bear, but there was a first time for everything, especially when it comes to bears. As Foster rummaged through his backpack while sitting along the edge of a marsh, putting away his field notebook, a noise drew his attention. He watched as a large black bear emerged from the bushes about 80 yards away from him, on the other side of the marsh. Knowing that black bears are seldom dangerous, the scientist stood to his full height of 6 feet 2 inches tall. To appear as large as possible, he lifted his backpack overhead, while he roared. As soon as the bear spotted Foster, it dashed straight toward him. Now fully vested in the game of chess with the bear, Foster dashed toward the stream that separated the two, in a show of bravado, expecting the bear to break off its charge. As Foster approached, he pulled his bear spray out of its hip holster, and waited to spray the bear until he was within a few yards for maximum effect. The bear and the scientist arrived at the stream bank about the same time. Now separated by only 2 yards, the bear turned back and forth, seemingly uncertain of how to cross the shallow water. After a few seconds, the black bear jumped across the stream, and Foster let him have a short blast from near point-blank range, right in the eyes, nose, and mouth. Immediately affected by the irritant, the black bear turned and jumped back over the stream, and seemed to be in a pain-induced retreat from its ill-fated attack. Foster likely believed this would be the end of the confrontation, and quickly hurried back to his backpack, and searched for a knife he typically carried with him. After realizing he'd left it behind in the shuffle, he retrieved his Leatherman multi-tool as an ineffective substitute. As he flicked out the 2-inch blade on the multi-tool, Foster's heart sank with the realization of just how inadequate it would be in his defense. His mind briefly drifted to his wife and 2 children, and how they would be impacted should things go poorly for him. Now somewhat armed, Foster turned back in the bear's direction to see it returning toward him in a gallop. Executing the same process over once again, Foster ran back toward the stream, yelling and roaring. Now separated again by the stream, the bear had the same conundrum of how to get across the stream, and eventually leapt over it. From only a few yards away, Foster released a second short blast from his bear spray. With a double dose of irritant, the black bear circled away from Foster, which gave him time to make his way back to the middle of the clearing. As the scientist kept an eye on the bear, he could see it try to sneak around behind him. It was clearly inept at doing this without cover, and almost amused the man with its behavior. After putting on a good sneak, the black bear rushed from the brush toward Foster in another charge. The man once again roared and charged toward the bear to within a few yards and held his spray out in front of him. By now the bear had made a clear association with the presence of the can and the pain in its eyes and nose. The bear spun around and retreated several yards, with Foster mocking a boisterous attack from behind. Each time Foster advanced toward the bear, it would run a short distance and try to find cover to circle behind him. Foster would charge toward it again, and once again, the bear would flee, then try to hide himself for another circling attack. Each time Foster rushed toward the bear, he knew he had to be careful not to trip and fall. If he lost his footing, the bear might see it as an opportunity to pounce on him, so each advance and retreat offered its own perils. For the next 15 minutes, this game of cat and mouse continued as Foster began to worry that the bear would stop its stalk on him. He reached into his pocket and found his GPS, which had charted his route into the location and now would guide him back to his vehicle. Foster also took a few photos of the bear, knowing the images would provide evidence as to what happened to him should the bear kill him. Each time Foster would begin to leave, the bear would sneak up behind him and try to ambush him, forcing the man to stop and chase the bear off again. Foster knew he had to find a way to make this situation work for him and allow him to get back to his truck. He devised a brilliant plan to continually push the bear ahead of him as he hiked back toward his vehicle. Eventually making his way to a patch of alders, Foster held the can in front of him as he crawled through the tangled mess while he charged toward the bear. As they crested a small rise, the bear closed to within 4 feet of Foster, causing him to discharge his bear spray a third time. The bear fled once again a short distance, but circled back to stalk the man once more. As the chase continued, the two eventually came out on a stretch of forest. Foster contemplated climbing into a tree, but knew the bear could also climb, so he bagged that idea. At one point, the bear was so frustrated that it stood on its hind legs and placed its front paws on either side of a tree. It let out a loud woof, seemingly venting its disappointment on how this attack was going. After stalking up behind Foster one more time, the scientists charged toward the bear again. Now only a few feet in a small pine tree separated the adversaries. Foster would aim the bear spray toward the bear, and it would shrink back and peer around the other side of the tree. Foster would then aim the spray at the other side of the tree, only to have the bear swap sides once again in a very serious game of peekaboo. As Foster tried to conserve his bear spray, he was close enough to see the bear's right eye was now swollen and half shut due to the effects of the spray. Foster decided one more good blast might convince the bear to find an easier meal, so he sprayed the bear once more from only a few feet. By now the breeze had picked up a bit, and the irritant had blown back into Foster's eyes. Now he was coughing and gagging just like the bear. For the next 30 minutes, Foster was paralleled as he retreated toward his vehicle. The bear would occasionally attempt to circle back behind the man, but each time he was met with a roaring charge and sticks and stones. Knowing he had to keep the bear between where he wanted to go and himself, Foster had to circle the bear on occasion, seemingly reversing the roles in the stalk. He refused to let the bear feel like it had an advantage, and knew that if he pursued the bear, it would keep it in a defensive mindset. As the pair proceeded through the trees, each time the bear charged, it would flee further than it had previously, before looping around in another attempt at stalking Foster. It appeared to be losing interest in pursuing the man, and eventually ended up not circling back on him after its final circling stalk on him. Foster made it back to his truck in safety without injury. The secret to his success was staying on his feet and purchasing an extra large can of bear spray containing 300 grams of irritant. Upon returning to his truck, he estimated that he had one more spray left in his canister, and that was about it. As for the bear, nothing was stated that Ontario officials attempt to locate it or cull it from the population. I guess they figured that the bear had learned a painful lesson about bear spray and hoped it wouldn't need another one. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I'm left with a few questions for you. If Foster hadn't purchased the extra large container of bear spray, how do you think things would have turned out? Does this episode make a good argument for packing a firearm while going into the forest? Did Foster survive because he was an animal researcher familiar with what the bear would try to do as it stalked him? I would hate to play Dr. Foster in a game of chess. I will gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so please post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it.
Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We've slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.